Devon Larratt is scheduled to arm wrestle Genadi Kvikvinia on the 7th of May at East vs West. Most people are considering Devon to be the heavy favorite in this match, and if we are simply looking at recent wins and losses, it would make sense why Devon is considered the heavy favorite. Devon was able to defeat Jerry Larratt back in the day when he was seemingly much weaker than he is today, and as we know, Genadi Kvikvinia ended up losing to Jerry Larratt. However, there is more to this match than meets the eye. This match is actually a terrible style match for Devon. Genadi has all the tools he needs to potentially cause Devon a lot of trouble and force him to pull in a style that he is not used to. Now to clarify, I do still think that Devon is probably going to win this match, but in this video I will explain why this match will likely end up being very difficult for Devon. And if Genadi does manage to win, I will explain the technique I think he needs to use in order to accomplish this. In order to understand why Genadi can beat Devon, we first need to understand Devon's style. Especially over the last few years, Devon has become more and more committed to his outside game. He has focused entirely on winning the high ground in a match and taking hand control. Devon is completely willing to give up his shoulder commitment and give up his elbow flexor angle in order to accomplish this. 99% of arm wrestlers lose all connection to their power if they lose hand control. So if Devon takes someone's wrist, they are going to lose the vast majority of their power. And by taking hand control, this also opens up Devon's lane to climb up over the top of someone's hand. Devon will continue to climb and adjust and increase his leverage and efficiency. Eventually, his opponent will completely gas out and the match is over. Normally, this strategy works very well, especially over a multi-round super match. However, there is one major problem with this strategy, and that is the 1% of arm wrestlers who actually can pull without their wrist. Sure, anyone can arm wrestle without their wrist, but it is incredibly rare for someone to still have nearly all of their power without their wrist. A great example of this is Jerry Larratt. When Devon arm wrestled Jerry, he did not even attempt to top roll him and use his traditional strategy. Jerry doesn't care about hand control. Jerry cares about shoulder commitment. If Devon had attempted to top roll Jerry, he would have easily cracked his wrist back, but it wouldn't have mattered. Jerry would have flop pressed right through Devon's bicep straight to the pad. Devon's long arms give him great leverage to attack someone's wrist and fight for height in a match. But in the same way, Devon's long arms also give him terrible leverage to stop a flop press. Devon is well aware of all of this, so he didn't even attempt to top roll Jerry. And Genadi Kvikvinia poses a similar threat. Genadi is one of the few arm wrestlers who can legitimately pull without his wrist without losing very much power. We saw this in action against Michael Todd at East vs West. We saw that Genadi was comfortable with hitting sideways and allowing his wrist to crack back. We saw Genadi opening Michael's arm angle and bumping him outside of his shoulder, and eventually we saw a very crispy transition to a flop press. And Genadi's flop press was strong enough to go right through Michael's King's move. Devon's bone lock King's move sticking point may not be any stronger. After all, with Devon's long arms, he has far worse leverage than Michael, making him even more susceptible to something like a flop press. So in my mind, this is Genadi's primary win condition against Devon. If Genadi can hit outside and knock Devon out of his shoulder, Devon will be in an open top roll position. And against 99% of pullers, the match would have been over, but not with Genadi. Genadi can continue to hit outside without his wrist and open Devon's bicep angle. Eventually, if Genadi separates Devon enough and forces him into a full King's move, Genadi can transition to a flop press. And I think Genadi's flop press will probably be strong enough to press through Devon's King's move. So if we see the match go outside, this is a potential lane that Genadi can use to win the match. But what if the match goes inside? After all, Devon of course will be well aware of this threat, so will he simply commit his shoulder against Genadi just like he did against Jerry? I think this is also a distinct possibility, but Jerry's lane is different from Genadi's. Jerry has more of a straight up shoulder press, whereas Genadi has more of a traditional hook. Against Jerry, Devon simply had to have a higher degree of shoulder commitment than Jerry. This denied Jerry's access to his press and took away all of his power. Jerry's hook is probably not on the same level as his press. Genadi, on the other hand, might just have the strongest hook on the planet. An example of this is comparing Jerry and Genadi versus Dave Chafee. In the past, when Jerry went into a hook with Dave Chafee, Dave was able to win, but against Genadi, Dave lost in a hook. So when Devon is facing Jerry, he simply needs to block the shoulder press. But against Genadi, if Devon ends up in somewhat of a traditional hook lane, Genadi may be strong enough to just rip right through Devon. So Devon will have to be very cautious going into this lane with Genadi. So what is the best lane for Devon to take? What I think Devon will probably try to do in this match is to essentially top roll and press Genadi at the same time. If Devon can bust Genadi's wrist back, contain his pronation, and commit his shoulder all at the same time, Genadi will have no options. Genadi has a ton of side pressure, but I think that even Genadi probably won't be able to do anything to Devon from that position. It is much more difficult to crack someone's wrist back while committing your shoulder, but Devon's pronator is so crazy strong right now, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Devon was able to do this. Another theoretical option for Devon would be to go ahead and top roll, but also focus heavily on turning Genadi palm up. It's much more difficult to press from a palm up position, so maybe if Devon uses an open top roll and bends his wrist at the same time, Genadi won't be able to press. But this is also pretty risky. So let me know who you guys think is going to take this match, as well as what lane do you think it will be in. As I said, I do still think Devon will probably find a way to win, but Genadi really does have good chances in this match. Genadi has all the tools he needs in order to force Devon into a lane that he doesn't normally need to use. Devon will have to be very careful to never give Genadi an inch in this match. If Genadi ever gains access to his shoulder press or his inside power, the match may be over. But I think the most likely outcome of this match is that Devon does manage to beat Genadi in every single fundamental. Devon is able to commit his shoulder, bend his wrist, and crack Genadi's wrist back all at the same time. But it may take Devon a round or two to find the perfect angle and gas Genadi out a bit. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see multiple techniques from both opponents throughout the course of this match. But there is still one other option, and this option to me is by far the most exciting. There is a chance that both guys fully commit to the inside lane and we get to see a dead center deep hook war between Devon and Genadi. This match is already so exciting to me, but if we get to see a hook war between these two guys, that would just make the match even better. But in reality, none of these points really matter at all. Shoulder commitment, pronation, bicep power, and cupping are all completely meaningless. We all know that there is only one deciding factor in this match. The outcome of this fight is solely hinging on the sheer power of Devon's thumb.